Hello, everyone. We are here with Lucas Buwald, CEO and co-founder of Weights and Biases. I would love to talk to you about your journey and thank you for being here. It's really exciting to have you here.
Totally.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in AI. Actually, let's just start there. How'd you get started in AI?
Well, it goes way back for me, actually. I always loved to play games. And when I was a pretty little kid, I was always trying to program my computer to play games.
Oh, really?
So I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, how would you make a computer that could beat you at Connect 4? And I tried all these different strategies. And then when I got to college, I took a class with a young professor. It was Daphne Kohler, actually gone on to be really famous. But she taught my first AI class, and we did reinforcement learning to beat Othello. And so I remember 48 hours in the computer lab. At that time you had to go, to the lab to do it. And I remember watching the computer get better and better. And it starts off really bad. And then, suddenly it's better than me. And then suddenly it's totally unbeatable. And it almost feels like watching a human learn. It was just this incredible, visceral experience and never went back.
Totally. Wow, that's amazing. So you started really young in this interest in reinforcement learning, kind of.
Well, I wasn't doing AI. I was just literally, but I think actually thinking about the problem for years really kind of made it more compelling when I got the, solution.
Totally. You finally found it. You finally found your thing.
Yeah.
How did you get started creating Weights and Biases?
I started creating Weights and Biases because I really wanted to help people doing AI engineering. And what really happened was I had been running a company called Crowdflower that did data labeling for 10 years. And I had gotten a little disconnected from, we called it machine learning at the time. And what happened was, the space had kind of taken off. It had gone from running on CPUs to GPUs. All these things had changed. And when my first company sold, I thought that maybe things had gotten easier for doing AI development, but actually gotten a lot harder. You were getting CUDA errors and weird compiler errors and kind of all these issues were coming up. Yeah. And I really wanted to make better tools for people that were doing that AI engineering work.
How did you get started with Weights and Biases? What were the first tools you made for the platform, and then how has it evolved over time?
Well, it really started from this question of what do AI engineers actually need. So, we went to our friends and we said, hey, would you use these tools? And at first they were basically no. And
it's good feedback.
Yeah, good feedback. You kind of keep iterating. But the very first thing that really kind of captured people was experiment tracking. And at the time, it was really unclear what that was. It wasn't in any VC's diagram or any company's workflow diagram. But, I'd always had this problem, even when I was in grad school, of how do you keep track of all the things that you tried? And it's a pain to go back and try to figure out, what you did. Yeah. And so that was kind of it felt like a passion project, because we had all experienced that pain. But then people really liked it. And so it was really exciting. It's
brilliant. So the experiment tracking, is that when you're doing training flows and you're trying different hyperparameter configurations, and then you're able to track all of that?
Yeah, although we kind of designed it broadly, so in the beginning it was you change a hyperparameter, but then it's okay, what happens if you change some data? Now it's what happens if you change a prompt? So there's lots of different things that you could change.
Wow.
And we try to keep track of everything that you do and what the results are.
That's amazing. So Weights and Biases, I have used it for my fine-tuning guides.
Thank you.
And it's been so helpful. All of the people who have used the guides have said, oh my gosh, it's so great to be able to map the loss curve and see which runs are better, et cetera. And so you're saying you can actually map different prompting all automatically with Weights and Biases. Cool. And is there any other tool on Weights and Biases that you have that you are proud of, or that, what else does the platform offer, if anything? I mean, that in itself is already
totally.
So much.
Well, I'd say there's two things we feel we're proud of. So one is we have a lot of what we call ML lifecycle tooling, right? So this is not just keeping track of the experiments, but keeping track of, what models go into production, what data sets, am I using? So that's called data lineage. Cool. So there's life cycle things. But I think for you and your classes, the thing that would be most compelling is a product we launched a few months ago called Weave. And this is all about visualizing what's happening with your LLMs, right? So this is really designed for software engineers to see what's going on, right? Because we were noticing, sometimes we do, even a simple RAG workflow, it's hard to kind of dig in and see exactly, what were the calls, what exactly was the prompt, and you start adding templates and you add these layers of abstraction, And we wanted to make it really simple to just kind of dive in and see, okay, every step, exactly what happened, how much did it cost, how many tokens was it?
Yeah,
all
when you
these
say
things.
every step, what are you referring to? I'm assuming you're not referring to like model interpretability.
No, sorry, every step in a workflow that involves LLMs. So like in RAG, it might be, like searching your vector database and then you pull back some results and then you
And
look
like,
over
what
results.
were those results? And then
Exactly.
how did it choose? Okay.
Yeah, so
that's amazing.
visualizing that, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so that is called Weave.
Called
that
Weave.
was just launched. And then you also have what was that? What did you say before? Does that have a name?
We call it models.
Models.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wow, fantastic. So tell me more about Weave and your inspiration for it and also just what it is as a product.
Yeah, so we've been helping lots of companies like Mistral and OpenAI develop LMs, and that's something we're really comfortable doing because that's our background as ML engineers. But we realized, the most exciting applications right now are software developers that are using these LMs, and they're not always familiar. Even fine tuning is a little bit of a stretch. I mean, you teach it, but it's feels a little complicated, I think.
Yeah.
And a common pattern is to just call the LMs. But then we realized, there's not a lot of tools for them out there. Like if you want to see exactly how your model made calls, or if you want to do evaluations for those LLMs, if you want to know how many times did I get back the right answer from an LLM, or compare two LLMs or compare two prompts. And so we realized, okay, we want to have a separate product that's really for the software developers, and it's really easy to use and natural for a software developer to experience, because they're a little different than an ML engineer in terms of comfort with statistics maybe and kind of what they know and don't know. So yeah, that's why we built Weave, and it's our newest product, so we're extra excited about it. We'd love for people to try it.
Yeah, I'm sure that the people that I work with would be so interested in using this because they want to use LLMs. They're open to learn some statistics, but it's mainly about using the models. And I get asked a lot, how do I evaluate my large language model? How do I compare them? And obviously there are these benchmarks, but it's really cool that you actually allow this to be part of the tool and to let users see, if you're using RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and you give it a data set or, a PDF or whatever that you want it to refer to, you're able to see the process and help debug or help improve it. So that's a really amazing tool. I want to use that tool.
I'd love to give you a demo. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, please. I would be honored to get a demo. Wow. How do you see Weave iterating over the next period of time?
Well, it's a new product. So a lot of it is kind of in conversation with our customers. I think there's new kinds of evaluations that people want to do with LMs that we really want to support.
Okay.
I also think that agents have made workflows more and more complicated. So we're thinking, how do you, visualize a workflow where there might be like 100, calls to an LLM? So that's what's top of mind. But if your audience tries it and takes it in a different direction, we'd be excited about that also.
Yeah. I mean, would you ever be interested in doing, Weave for computer vision models or like expanding the scope?
Totally. I mean, I should say it does, kind of work for computer vision models. We've always been sort of application agnostic and tried to get the right visualizations, for what's needed. So, you can show pictures and things in Weave. You can't show like molecules yet, but if, some chemists start to use it, we'll certainly add a molecule viewer.
That's cool. And so how would that look in terms of the evaluation for a computer vision model? Like how would that appear on weights and biases?
Well, I think like exactly the way to evaluate a vision model depends on what you're doing. And, so like bounding boxes have standard metrics and semantic segmentation has different, standard metrics. So we try to like make the standard things easy to do.
So you have that already?
We do, yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Amazing.
But I would say what's I think really important is not just to get obsessed with the number, but to actually like look at an individual example and see what's going on. So we always try to make it really easy to not just, get like a score or a loss function, which is a little bit hard to interpret, but actually like see some specific examples because there's also a lot there.
What do you think are the biggest opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years? And then we can move on to what are some of the biggest potential drawbacks, risk points,
Biggest opportunities for companies or students, or who do you?
Honestly, anything. Like whatever, you could go both routes. Whatever feels good. Yeah, whatever you're drawn to. Or whatever you're excited about.
Yeah, let me think.
It doesn't have to be the biggest.
Yeah, biggest. I guess what's exciting to me right now in this moment is that suddenly AI works for so many tangible things.
Yeah.
Like every company has different things they could do with AI, and a lot of them are kind of in the details of how the company operates, right? Like, like tire companies figuring out, better chemistry to make better tires, or, pharma companies figuring out like ways to test their drugs before they put them in lab animals, or companies using LLMs to do like regulatory compliance. Like I really love all these ways that these models are tangible and really help people do things.
Right.
And I think the spectrum of possible applications has just massively broadened in the last 2 or 3 years. So I think there's just an unbelievable amount of opportunity in almost anything that people do to apply LLMs, at least partially, to that problem.
It is wild how AI is. I mean, for those of us who were in AI for so long, we always said this, like, oh, it'll apply to every industry. The fact that now your tire chemistry is being altered to help tires, it's so exciting. It really is going into every single industry now, and it's an exciting time. And thank you for your tools. They've been so helpful.
Totally.
What advice would you give, for example, a student in AI who is relatively new and doesn't have any background and doesn't know how to get into the field? Maybe a student or even someone who's graduated and feels like, oh, I missed the train. I'm not technical. Do you have any advice for those people?
Well, I think the feeling that you missed the train is a sad thing. And I even felt that way, I think like 6 or 7 years ago when I started Weights and Biases, because it was like, man, I've been like this executive for 10 years. Like I haven't, been doing any kind of machine learning. I'm so out of date. Like I don't understand any of this stuff. So I think if people feel like they've missed a train, you're not alone, right? I think everyone is feeling FOMO because there's like so much opportunity right now. And so you haven't missed the train. I mean, it's like you can always build technical skills. And I think that it's never been easier to build technical skills. I mean, there's so many free resources, but I worry, with all the free kind of like teaching resources, the way I learn is always kind of through playing and tinkering and building small things that I actually care about. And so that's my method. I think other people learn in different ways, but I would at least encourage people to like try to make an end-to-end thing that works, that satisfies something. Like the other day, I was building a little website where you could kind of put in your text and then it would make the text conform, to my personal opinion about good writing style.
Oh.
And I was trying to give it to my team to say, hey, why don't you, before you send me an email, like run it through this, and then I will like love to read your email.
So how did you do that?
Well, I made it with Vercel, which is actually a lot of fun. It's like pretty simple, and these APIs are not hard to call. So it was actually pretty I felt like it was a little bit of a beginner project. I mean, I'm not the best. I'm not the best engineer.
So it was a web tool where people could run their email through and get a critique and see if.
Yeah.
And so how did you end up training that model? So I'm assuming you didn't train the model. You just passed in prompts, or how did you go about this end-to-end project just for our?
Yeah. So I'd written a style guide for the company to say, here's how I think I would like people to write.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I didn't do any training. I just literally made a prompt that I said, hey, OpenAI, put the next thing in this style guide, And it was funny because I was like running all these like emails that I was getting through it. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I actually really prefer the style guide that I'm like telling people. So, okay, it's actually working.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a really fun little project. But I think there's like millions of projects like that. And at least for me, I think that's the best way for me to learn. And so I would recommend that to at least try building some kind of fun end-to-end app that's tangible that you can show people.
Yeah. Right. And for those of you who don't know, Vercel is a web app deployment company. They perhaps do other things, but that's what I know them as. And my website is hosted on Vercel.
Nice.
That's correct. I'm correct on that's how you use it as well.
That's how you, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have received this question from some of the viewers. As a non-technical person coming into AI, what means they've made it? Like, what do they need to do to feel like they're actually worthy to be there and like they've made it and they can be in the room?
Well, hopefully everyone can be in the room.
But, of course. I feel the same way. Everyone can be in the room, but they have this, like, oh, I don't understand how AI works. I need to, like, I don't have a background in AI. How do I get into the field? How do I guess even for a company, like, I want to apply to do AI at a company. Mm-hmm. What do you look for in people who apply but may not have a background perhaps you're not hiring people like that yet. Maybe you are.
We do all the
You
time.
do?
So
Okay,
yeah, I
tell
have a
me
lot
about
to
that.
say about that.
Yeah.
I would say, every step that somebody takes towards learning goes a long way, right? So, for example, we hire technical support roles, and you don't have to be a world's AI expert, but we do really want to see, hey, I've done like a little AI project. I've like taken some classes, right? Like even, our chief people officer did a really cool project using GPT that I just absolutely loved, where she was like kind of, like helping do self-assessments with GPT. And so
Wow.
I think like using these models in different ways that you can talk about
Yeah.
really shows like a level of curiosity. And honestly, no one has more than 2 years of experience with LLMs right now. So it's kind of the easiest place to catch up. So I think if you feel kind of left behind or like you don't have a place, that's like definitely fixable. I'm probably the wrong person to talk about that because I went to Stanford and I've been doing this for like 20 years. But honestly, I really don't think I think the vast majority of my experience is honestly, I have to throw it away, right? Because you have to have like a beginner mind with this stuff. Like I worked really hard on translation, machine translation. That was like, I have these papers that I wrote in machine translation and they're completely worthless, right? It's like that was a dead end.
Right.
LLMs just do it without any knowledge of translation. And you just have to accept, okay, they do it better,
Yeah.
and let's like move on and like learn about the new thing.
Right. And that putting your brain to work in that way does kind of train your brain to think in a certain way. So it's not like the learning is lost. It's not like it was all for naught.
That's a nice way of putting it, yeah.
Right. Like you
Yeah.
you get that practice. But that is really great. And so you hire quite a lot of people that don't have a classical AI background, but they are showing interest, they're learning on their own, maybe do a small project like the prompting project, like a fine-tuning project, like a basic coding implementation. So are those the kinds of questions you ask when you're interviewing? And this might be secret, but if you are willing to share.
No, totally. It's funny because I say this like publicly, but people don't do it.
Okay.
So, a lot of people show up, if you're going to show up for non-technical role at Weights and Biases, and I'd say about half of our company, a little less than half of our company is not like traditionally technical roles. Like, actually support is technical, but I'm talking about like sales, marketing. I'm surprised how many people show up and they haven't like logged in to our tool, or they haven't like kind of done like a Colab example. Like I want people that like aren't intimidated by trying that. I don't need them to like be able to answer every like technical question they might have, but what goes a long way with me is like, hey, I went for it and like just tried it,
Right,
and
right.
that's like I think that's something that I look for, because I think in the space it moves so quickly that you need to know that people are willing to go for it and try it, because otherwise they're going to fall behind. No matter how technical you are today, the shelf life of this knowledge is so short that you have to like keep trying things and be brave about like entering things that you don't know a lot about. Like when prompt engineering came along, I didn't know about it. I didn't understand it. You know what I mean? But and I still feel like a little guilty when I give these talks. Like people come up afterwards and like tell me these things that I missed, but it'll be better the next time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's part of it.
That's part of it. Be open to learning completely. And so again, you haven't missed the train. This is the train. It's taking off kind of, and everything is changing so quickly that if you join now, you're still at the beginning basically. And thank you. That's really great advice. And I guess in terms of the AI Engineer Conference, which is why we're here, what brought you here? What excites you about the conference? And what will you be talking about today?
Well, so the AI Engineer Conference is our audience. So like, of course, we want to be here. And, we've known the organizers for a long time and always admired, the work that they do. Yeah. I'm talking about basically taking AI models into production because, most of our revenue comes from enterprise customers.
Yeah.
And the problem they all have is they see these amazing demos and they're like, why isn't this in production? Like, why isn't this like shipped yet? So that's the thing that we know about is like what happens in between the demo and live in production.
Okay. So that's what you'll be teaching today is to
Yeah.
help people move their products from.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And a question out of curiosity, how do you see models increasing their efficiency on compute? Is this something you ever look into? Is this might not be really your domain, but we have these GPUs, and how do you see it so that we can use the GPUs better, perhaps, to increase our ability to train models on the finite amount of compute that we have now? Is that something that you ever think about? And if not, it's not.
No, we think about it a lot. So we measure all this, right? We can't like help you. We can help you use your GPUs better by measuring if you're using it or not. So we actually keep track of like, how much, if you're fine tuning, and actually the example you did, if you look at the system metrics, it'll show you how much of your RAM, your GPU RAM are you using, right? And that's a good thing to look at because,
helpful.
if you're not using it all, you probably want to increase your batch size or, you could be more efficient. So just looking at that metric, I think is an important thing to look at. Outside of that, I think it's also important when you're using LLMs to have an evaluation metric to be able to say, okay, if I went to a smaller model, how much accuracy is this costing me? It might not be a lot. In some cases it is, in some cases it's not. I myself am really passionate about kind of these smaller LLMs like deployed on edge devices. I think is really like a lot of fun.
So cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah.
They're so cool. It's exciting, especially with, the news from Apple's conference and how they're going to have small models locally on device. So what technologies are you excited about outside of your company? What do you find yourself, if you ever have time to look into things, but what do you find yourself learning about or excited about outside of Weights and Biases?
Well, one thing that's hard to not be excited about is all the code generation companies. Like I'm always trying, the different ones. And I just think it's hard to not be just like enamored with how effective they are and how much fun it is to write code when you can ask about your bug and it's actually giving you helpful suggestions. Like I feel like you always have a friend with you who's helping you write the code. So I don't know. That's something I love and I can't stop like trying these things. And I also love all these tools that are sort of developer tools enabled by LLMs, like like a terminal, like an LLM centric terminal or these different agents that write things.
Cool.
Yeah.
An LLM centric terminal. So that would be like it figures out what commands you need based on your human input.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, totally.
What coding LLMs are your favorites right now? And do you have an app or an IDE that you use as well?
Yeah, I go back and forth, and all of them are our customers, so I don't want to feel offended. But no, it's fine. Today I've been using Codium a lot, and I use Cursor, which I think is a really kind of fun environment. But I feel like it's my responsibility to bounce around and try them all.
Yeah, there was one that just came out again. It wasn't CodeStroll, was released by Mistral, and then there was another one. I'm blanking on the name that was just released a few days ago. That's supposed to be the best based on
that's like evergreen content. It's always going to be just a few days ago.
I know, exactly. Yeah, every few days there's like the new cutting edge thing.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. Oh well, thank you so much for coming and meeting with us. This has been so great to talk with you. Thank you for giving your time. I'm excited to see your talk today.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.